Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Day One. Today, we're going to be talking about the five characteristics of transformational leadership. We picked up last week talking about transformational leadership, and we want to kind of put a little button, if you will, on that episode. So let's dig in and find out what we can about transformational leadership. First of all, if you haven't already known, I'm David. With me today, I've got two of my compadres with me. I've got Ryan and I've got Philip, and we're all going to kind of jump in and share on this conversation. So I wrote an article, of course, on LinkedIn, talking about five characteristics of transformational leadership that inspire real change. And I was really thinking about this from the same perspective that we came from last week, and that was the transformational leader has to be a change agent in his organization. I had a little bit of a disagreement with Chat GPT over this because it communicated that transformational leadership is a style. And I would say that it's not a style, it's a type of leader. And every leader, despite the style or approach they use, can be transformational in what they're doing and how they're impacting their teams. So I want to jump right in and I want to specifically talk about the five characteristics that we pointed out and just expound upon those just a little bit. Hopefully, that will give you guys some more depth in the conversation. It'll help you in your thought process around it. So here are the five: visionary thinking, inspirational motivation, individualized consideration, intellectual stimulation, and leading by example. And so I'm going to start with the very first one, visionary thinking. And Philip, I know this is a good one, and I know this is one that you're also kind of passionate about. When we're talking about visionary thinking, I think this is like the tip of the spear, if you will, for any leader that is driving a team, driving an organization, even just driving a small department. That if there's no vision, your people are going to perish. So,
Mhm.
what's your thought about visionary thinking and visionary communication?
I think you nailed it just with that phrase. It comes from one of the most popular books in the world. Uh, where there is no vision, the people perish, or where there's no vision, people are. In another manuscript I read, it said people are shaken loose, meaning they don't have anything to cling to when there's no vision. And when we talk about vision, I think it's probably best to put it as the goal or the end result that we're aiming for, the thing that we envision or that we see in our mind's eye as to how this thing is supposed to end up, whether it's a certain set of goals you have to transform a department into something better, or a certain amount of sales or business progress you want to make in a given industry, maybe gain market share here, become a household name, those things like that. Whatever that type of vision you have is, the transformational leader knows how to set that thing in people's mind's eye so clearly and to present it in a way that they can just, it's like they gravitate towards it. And the truth of the matter is, David, and I'm sure you can speak more to this, if the leader themselves is not convinced of it, it's going to be hard for that leader to convince anybody else of that vision as well. So
Yeah, and we're going to see that come around too. Ryan, you know as well that that visionary thinking is the critical first step. And as someone, I know you've led volunteer organizations. Talk to us briefly about visionary thinking.
Um, the most important thing is, especially if you're a visionary leader, you can have this amazing idea in your mind, but if you can't get it from your mind into your mouth, into the hearts of the people, then it's going to fall flat. Especially if you're dealing with somebody, a group of people like volunteers, because volunteers they can be all over the place, but they want to be there, but they also have their lives and their jobs and those things, and being as dedicated as they can. And so, if you really want to learn how to be a visionary leader, go volunteer somewhere for a little while,
Yeah.
and lead there.
good.
And so it'll really force you to learn how to codify the vision so people can get it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, if it doesn't get from your mouth into people's hearts, you're gonna have a hard time motivating people to
For
follow
sure.
you, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be critical. The next one is inspirational motivation. You know, this is about bringing, as the article says, passion and energy to what you're doing. And I want to use this word belief as part of the concept that when the leader believes in what they're doing, what they're saying, and their goals and their guiding values, they can become an unstoppable force. Not only can they communicate the vision in a way that inspires and connects people, but now they live out that vision. And I'm going to tell you that belief, I believe, is at the core of that concept, and that is really what kind of authenticates what you're doing. Now we see that you're not just talking about it, but now you're living this thing out. And if I see you living out what you're talking about, man, that just makes people want to jump on board what you're doing. The next one is individualized consideration. Ryan, I'm going to come to you on this one first because people, um, when you're leading a team or an organization, the team or the organization is made up of individuals. And I think sometimes we lose sight of looking at every individual as part of the team that creates problems for us. What's your thought?
I think this is where you could be really set apart very easily as a leader. Is
Yeah.
if you because those leaders, some of the greats in the history of leading organizations, they memorize people's names, even though they have a 30,000-foot view and they're responsible for a lot of areas. I'm going to give a great example. There's a great hotel in downtown Atlanta with a world famous restaurant at the top called the Sundial. And the I knew the head chef there, and he was very well liked by everybody because from the moment he stepped foot onto the campus of the hotel, all the way up to the very tip top floor, he knew every person's name, every cook, every waiter, every waitress, every host, every maid, every maitre d', every person checking people in into the lobby, every elevator attendant. He knew everybody, and he was the most important dude in the most important restaurant in the hotel. And so he took time, and so he was well respected and well liked for that, because he didn't treat everyone as like, oh, you're just all the maids, and so you're not really in my lane, so I'm not going to deal with you. He individualized everybody and still led great, had new things on the menu, and had world-class sweet tea. Seriously, I can still taste that sweet tea.
That's serious sweet tea if you could still taste it.
For
Philip,
real.
the next one is intellectual stimulation. Um, I think the best way that I'd like to talk about this one is a curious environment to work in, an
Hmm.
environment where questions are welcome. And consequently, I think that when questions are welcomed and you're allowed to better understand things, I think it leads to better problem solving on your team. What's your thought about intellectual stimulation?
I think this can be one of those things that if you lack it in an organization, it's going to show because in negative ways. Because if a leader is afraid of honest questions, that should set off all kinds of red flags.
Mm,
Um, if we're talking about trying to improve an organization or improve any type of effort where people are involved, you're going to have those honest conversations and be willing to answer those honest questions that come at you as a leader. It's like, okay, this may not be comfortable, and to a degree, it may expose an insecurity, or it may expose something about the leader that they're not comfortable dealing with. But if they're, and I'm going to have to use this word, if they're humble enough to still welcome those things, even at the risk of, maybe looking less reputable or whatever the case is, or like they don't have it all together, God forbid, then, then it can actually open up doors for that leader to be more respected. Because the bottom line is, man, you're working with adults. Everybody knows when you're full of crap. Everybody knows.
hmm
Even if you try to present yourself a certain way, if it's a facade, people can easily sniff that out. I always go back to my example of that TV show, The Office, back in the day. Everybody knew Michael Scott was clueless. He
Right.
wasn't getting away with anything, but he thought he was. So it's that kind of thing. I think it's important having that ability in an organization to present things honestly, questions honestly, but respectfully at the same time, I think is very key. That way people feel like they're a part of something that is genuine and not something that's just, kind of fueled by pretense.
Yeah. And I think it's also, you said something important there. You know, as a leader, I think it's a misnomer to believe that you have to have all the answers,
Right.
because
Absolutely.
that's not likely.
No.
You might have a lot of them, but you won't have all of them. And I think in an environment uh, that like this, that when you say, "I don't know, but let's find out together,"
Hmm.
that opens a door for something significant. And the final of the five here is leading by example. Now we can go all day on this one, but if you don't set the tone, and if you don't present yourself as willing to get your hands dirty too, to get things done, you're going to lose your people.
That's right.
And that's not a good thing either. Ryan, what's your thought about leading by example?
I don't think it necessarily means that you're doing all of the dirty work.
Right.
It goes a long way to, sure, go turn a wrench or go stand in the trenches with your guys. But it's more or less about the character of not thinking that you're better than anyone else. Back to
Hmm.
that famous book, there's this great principle of thinking of others as greater than yourself, and instead of to, I want to challenge your thinking. Instead of the typical American corporate ladder of climbing up to the top of the pyramid, try considering the pyramid upside down. That if you're at the top of the organization, you're actually at the bottom, lifting up everybody else so that they can succeed, because you're only as great as your weakest link. And it's a zero sum game at the end of the day. So it's not necessarily mean you don't delegate things or ask people to do things, and you have to still maintain the 30,000-foot view as the leader, but it's more or less about the character and the heart behind it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
I agree. And I'll give you a little bonus characteristic here. Being a transformational leader takes time.
Hmm.
And it's not necessarily it takes time to become one, but it also takes time to invest in your people,
Yes.
and to take time to be able to look at each one and evaluate what their strengths and weaknesses are, what opportunities they bring to the table. To It takes time to try out different things to see what works, what doesn't work. So be willing to invest time in your team, and I think that you'll see really, really good results. Philip, I'll give you the last word on this time piece. What do you think?
Investing time will pay great dividends, because when people feel valued and they feel like they are important to you, and a lot of times that's seen by way of an investment of time. If they feel that way, then they'll be more committed to the cause that you've laid out in front of them. There's an old phrase for many leadership training classes I've been in. It says involvement equals commitment, and I like that. It's one of those things where if you can involve somebody and invest the time in them, give them responsibilities, delegate some things to them that require something of them, that maybe it even stretches them a little bit. It could be something that they end up growing from, and then become more attached to that vision that you've put out for them just from that time investment.
That's good, Philip. I like that a lot. Well, everybody, that's this episode of Beyond Day One. We have been working behind the scenes on a fantastic course. It's called Beyond Day One. And it's about, really, in its simplest form, it's about teaching young professionals and Gen Z the way around the office. It's about introducing them to the etiquette that should be at work in every office environment, so that when they walk in your door, they're more equipped to start with their feet on the ground and ready to run than they're trying to figure things out. We think you're going to love this course, and it's going to have so many things in it that are going to be beneficial to you: how to ask for feedback, how to communicate in certain formats, how to or what to expect in meetings, timeliness and different areas, how to properly treat the building or facility that you may be in. All of those things are in the course, and we want to encourage you to grab a course and share it with all of your young professionals in your office. You can go to the link down in the description for Beyond Day One and learn more about the course. Until next time, I'm David. Again, that's Philip. He's Ryan, and we're out.